Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take a stack of your sources and extract the most important insights to help you stay well informed. And today, we're diving into something that feels, well, incredibly immediate for so many of us across the country. This absolutely stifling heat, you might be experiencing that, suffocating humidity and temperatures likely hitting triple digits. With those feels like temperatures entering near 105 degrees in many areas, it's really something. And what's truly concerning, I think, is that we're just not seeing much overnight relief at all, meaning those temperatures stay high even after the sun goes down.
It's true. It really is. And, it's easy to just dismiss these extreme heat waves as, oh, it's just summer. But honestly, it feels different to many people, doesn't it?
Yeah.
There's this subtle but powerful idea called normalcy bias, sometimes at play here, where we start to maybe accept these record-shattering temperatures as just, well, the new normal. But it's so crucial to understand that this isn't just typical summer discomfort. This is a significant health concern, especially for our older adults. And it's something we really, really need to take seriously.
I can certainly see why that's a major concern, yes. And that's really our mission today, to unpack why this heat is particularly dangerous for older adults. And more importantly, what specific actionable steps you can take to protect yourself and, your loved ones. We're going to cover how our bodies uniquely respond to heat as we age, the different types of heat-related illnesses you absolutely need to recognize, and practical ways to keep cool, hydrated, and connected during these challenging times. So let's unpack this invisible danger.
Why the heat is different for older adults, the invisible danger.
Okay, first up, let's talk about why the heat is different, especially for older adults. It truly is an invisible danger, you mentioned, because our bodies don't react to heat in the exact same ways they used to.
That's such a key point. Yeah. One of the primary reasons is that as we age, our bodies simply don't respond to heat as quickly or as efficiently. This means our core temperature, the temperature deep inside, can rise to dangerous levels without us even realizing it sometimes. Think about it. Our physiological changes might mean we don't sweat as much as we used to. And sweating is absolutely critical for natural cooling. It's how our bodies are designed to cool off.
Right, the evaporation is key.
Exactly. Sweat needs to evaporate off your skin to cool you down. So if there's less of it, or if the air is so humid it can't evaporate effectively, well, that vital cooling mechanism is severely hampered.
So if our main cooling system, the sweating, is kind of compromised, what other subtle physiological changes in older adults make this invisible danger so potent? You mentioned thirst earlier. How does that play into it?
Oh, that's a fantastic question, and it's a huge factor, a really huge factor. As we age, our body's ability to sense thirst can diminish. It just doesn't send the signal as strongly. This is profound because it means you might not feel thirsty, but your body desperately needs water to stay hydrated and cool. This is a subtle but incredibly important point for everyone listening. Please don't wait for thirst. Drink regularly. Furthermore, studies show that our cardiovascular system, which helps regulate body temperature, also reacts differently. For instance, older individuals' blood pressure might respond more intensely, more dramatically, to even subtle changes in skin temperature, like going from a warm room to a cool one, or vice versa. It indicates a general shift in how our body manages temperature extremes overall.
And then there's humidity. Ugh, that truly is a real deceiver, isn't it? High humidity significantly increases that feels like temperature, making it seem much, much hotter than what the thermometer actually reads.
Precisely. Exactly. When the air is already saturated with moisture, your sweat simply can't evaporate effectively from your skin. It just sits there, right? Making you feel clammy and sticky. And you don't get that crucial cooling effect. It's like trying to dry off with a wet towel when the air around you is already soaking wet. There's just nowhere for the moisture to go.
It's as if the air is already full, so your body's sweat has nowhere to evaporate to. There's even a term you sometimes hear in agricultural areas, corn sweat, which is basically evapotranspiration, plants releasing water vapor, much like our body sweat. This literally adds moisture into the air, increasing the humidity and making everything feel even more oppressive. It really contributes to that thick, suffocating feeling many of us are experiencing right now.
Yeah, it does. And what's truly fascinating here is how this extreme heat connects to something beyond just chronological age. We often think about age in terms of birthdays, right? How many years we've been around. But there's also this concept of biological age. This measures how well your body functions at a molecular, cellular, and system level. It's about how old your body actually is inside, physiologically.
And this next piece of research really caught my attention. It was quite striking. A study from the USC Leonard Davis School found something remarkable that people living in neighborhoods experiencing more days of high heat actually showed greater biological aging on average. Think about that. This means extreme heat isn't just uncomfortable or immediately dangerous in the short term. It can literally speed up how your body ages at a cellular level, impacting your long-term health and vitality.
And this isn't just an interesting scientific tidbit. It has real consequences. Having a biological age greater than your chronological age is linked to a higher risk for disease and, unfortunately, mortality. So understanding this connection really frames heat as not just a short-term discomfort, but a potential long-term health issue. It can subtly yet profoundly impact your vitality and overall well-being over time. It's a deeper, often unseen impact of heat on our long-term health.
Wow. Okay, so given these insights, who is most vulnerable when these heat domes descend? The data you mentioned from the 2021 heat dome is stark. Nearly 70% of the deceased were aged 70 or older. That's a huge percentage. But it's not just age itself, is it? A study in the journal GeoHealth found other factors. It found that female individuals were significantly more likely to need emergency care for heat-related illness, and those with pre-existing conditions like diabetes face an even greater risk, almost tripling their chances of a heat-related emergency department visit. That's really significant. These are really specific risk factors that we need to pay attention to for ourselves and our loved ones.
Absolutely. And this also brings up the critical issue of urban heat islands, UHIs. This is a phenomenon where cities, with their dense roads, buildings, and vast expanses of infrastructure, materials like asphalt and concrete that just soak up heat, they become significantly hotter than surrounding rural areas. It's a serious disparity that affects many, many people living in urban environments.
Indeed. It makes sense when you think about it. The lack of vegetation, those impermeable surfaces, dense building structures blocking airflow, and even what's called anthropogenic heat, which is basically the heat emitted from human activities like cars, buses, industrial activity, and even our own air conditioning units pumping hot air outside. All of these contribute to making these urban areas literal ovens sometimes, and it can even worsen air quality by contributing to summer smog. It's a double whammy. And here's a truly disheartening fact from the sources we reviewed. Formerly redline neighborhoods, due to historical discriminatory housing practices, were found to be over 4 degrees Fahrenheit warmer on average than non-redline areas. And these communities often lack adequate housing with working AC or the resources to find alternative cooling.
It's incredibly unfair, isn't it? It really highlights systemic issues. And the financial burden of running air conditioning, especially for those on fixed incomes, is just immense. It's a huge cost. We know that between 1/4 and 1/3 of U.S. households experience some form of energy insecurity. They struggle to pay utility bills. Imagine being stuck in an oven-like apartment because you simply can't afford to keep your AC running, or maybe you don't even have one. This highlights the vital need for community support and access to resources during these heat events. It puts people in an impossible bind, really, and that's where collective action and care truly matter.
Decoding heat-related illnesses. Know the signs.
Okay, so knowing the signs of heat-related illnesses is absolutely critical. It can quite literally be the difference between life and death in some cases. And there are 2 main categories we need to distinguish very, very clearly: heat exhaustion and heat stroke.
Yes. This is probably one of the most important takeaways from today's deep dive, something everyone should really commit to memory. Heat exhaustion is a serious warning sign. It means your body is struggling to cool itself down. It means your internal cooling system is working overtime, but it just can no longer keep up. The symptoms include feeling very thirsty, dizzy, weak, or maybe uncoordinated. You might feel nauseated and be sweating profusely, just drenched. Your skin might feel cold and clammy to the touch, surprisingly. But your body temperature may still be normal or close to normal, and you could have a rapid pulse.
Okay, so if you or someone you're with experiences those symptoms, the immediate steps are crucial, right? What should people do?
Yes, immediately. First, stop any physical activity you're doing right away. Then, get to a cool place, ideally somewhere with shade, or, even better, indoors with air conditioning. Rest. Lie down if you can. And drink plenty of fluids. Water is great, or sports drinks that replenish electrolytes can be helpful too. But definitely avoid alcohol and caffeinated beverages like coffee or soda. These can actually dehydrate you further and make the situation worse. The key here is, if you don't start feeling better pretty quickly, maybe within an hour or so, seek medical care, because heat exhaustion can progress rapidly to heat stroke if it's not treated.
Okay, that's the warning sign. Heat exhaustion. Now, heat stroke, that's the emergency.
That is the emergency. Heat stroke is a life-threatening medical emergency. Full stop. This requires immediate medical help. Call 911 right away. Don't hesitate. The symptoms here are much more severe. A very high body temperature, typically above 104 degrees or 40 degrees Cs. The person might faint, become confused, agitated, or act strangely. They might not know where they are. Crucially, and this is a key differentiator from heat exhaustion, they may not be sweating, meaning their skin will often be hot and dry, maybe flushed or reddish. Their pulse might be strong and rapid, or surprisingly, it could be slow and weak. Either is a bad sign.
Wow. Okay, so that comparison you made. Think of your body like an engine. Heat exhaustion is when the engine light comes on, that warning light telling you to slow down, pull over, take action. But with heat stroke, the engine is completely seizing up. It needs urgent professional help immediately.
That's a perfect analogy, exactly. And while you're waiting for emergency services to arrive because you've called 911, immediately move the person to the coolest place you can find. Get them under shade or indoors if possible. And take immediate action to lower their body temperature. Every second counts. This means applying cool, wet clothes or towels to their skin, giving them a cool bath or shower if that's feasible and safe, or using fans to try and create air movement around them, fanning them vigorously, anything to cool them down.
Okay, so those are the big two, exhaustion and stroke. But there are other heat-related conditions people should be aware of too, right?
Yes, absolutely. Beyond heat exhaustion and heat stroke, there are other conditions that are important to recognize. They might not be immediate emergencies, but they still need attention. One is heat syncope. Syncope just means fainting. So this is sudden dizziness or fainting that often happens when you're active in hot weather. It's especially common if you're taking certain heart medications like beta blockers, or if you're just not used to the heat yet, not acclimated.
Okay, and if that happens,
Yeah.
what's the advice?
Pretty straightforward. Stop what you're doing, rest in a cool place, elevate your legs if possible, and drink water slowly.
Got it. Then there are heat cramps. I think many people have experienced these.
Yes, quite common, especially with physical activity. These are painful tightening or spasms of muscles, usually in your stomach, arms, or legs. Often comes from hard work or intense exercise in the heat. Typically, your body temperature and pulse stay normal, and your skin might even feel cool and moist. For cramps, again, stop the physical activity right away, rest in the shade or a cool building, and drink plenty of fluids. Water is good, or electrolyte-rich sports drinks, and sounding like a broken record here, but no alcohol or caffeine. They don't help.
Okay, no alcohol, no caffeine. Got it. What else?
Then there's heat edema. Edema means swelling, so this is swelling, usually in your ankles and feet when you get hot. Elevating your legs can often help reduce this swelling. Put your feet up. If it doesn't go down fairly quickly, though, it's probably a good idea to check in with your doctor.
And what about rashes? Sometimes people get itchy in the heat.
Right. That could be heat rash, sometimes called prickly heat. It's a skin irritation that happens from heavy sweating, especially in humid conditions. It looks like red clusters of small blisters, almost like pimples on the skin, and it can feel itchy or even like a prickly, tingling pain, hence the name. To soothe it, the main thing is to keep the affected area dry. Use powder like cornstarch or a specific heat rash powder to absorb moisture. And try to stay in cool areas as much as possible to reduce sweating.
And finally, the obvious one, perhaps.
Yeah.
Sunburn.
Yes, sunburn. It's a direct sign of skin damage from too much sun exposure, either too intense or for too long. Your skin will look red, feel tender, might develop blisters later, start to peel, and feel warm to the touch. Severe reactions can even include symptoms like fever, chills, nausea, or a more widespread rash. Prevention is absolutely key here. Wear protective clothing that covers your skin, hats, sunglasses. Stay out of direct sunlight, especially during those peak hours, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Using a broad-spectrum sunscreen with an SPF of 15 or higher can also help prevent sunburns. But remember, you have to reapply it often, especially if you're sweating or swimming. If you do get sunburned, wear lightweight, loose clothing over it. Take cool showers or baths, moisturize the affected areas gently, and definitely stay out of the sun so your skin can heal.
Okay, that's a good rundown of the specific conditions. But what about the broader health impacts? You mentioned increased hospital visits.
Yes, it's really crucial to understand that the effects go beyond just these immediate heat illnesses. That 2021 heat dome, for example, led to a significant increase in emergency department visits. Specifically, the data showed about 22 more visits per day compared to normal, and nearly 10 more unplanned hospitalizations per day. That puts a huge strain on the healthcare system. It also caused delays in how long people had to stay in the emergency department, extending the wait by about an hour on average.
Wow. And were there specific conditions beyond the obvious heat stroke that were sending older people to the hospital more often?
Yes, that's an important point. Studies have identified conditions that maybe weren't previously appreciated as being strongly linked to heat waves for hospitalizations in older adults. These include things like fluid and electrolyte disorders, which makes sense given the hydration challenges. And also, interestingly, urinary tract infections, or UTIs. This really underscores the need for proactive hydration. Drinking enough fluids isn't just about preventing heat stroke, and it also highlights the importance of regular medical check-ins, especially during periods of extreme heat. It's not just about avoiding the sun, it's about maintaining overall health and preventing seemingly unrelated issues from escalating because of the heat stress on the body.
Practical steps to stay cool. Your home is your haven.
Okay, so we've covered the why heat is dangerous and the what to look for, the signs of illness. Now let's get really practical. What can you actually do to stay cool, especially when the heat feels relentless? Your home can truly be your haven, but you might need to make some smart adjustments to make it work.
Absolutely. The most obvious solution, if you have it, is air conditioning. Use it. Keep it running. Don't try to tuck it out if you have AC. Experts suggest maintaining an indoor temperature somewhere between, say, 75 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit. That's about 24 degrees C to 26.5 degrees C. It's generally considered an acceptable and safe range during the summer to prevent overheating.
Okay, but now I know what many of our viewers might be thinking, and it's a very valid point, but the energy costs. Running AC constantly can be a huge financial burden, especially for folks on a fixed income. That's a very real concern, isn't it?
Oh, it's a profoundly real concern, Kai. You are absolutely not alone in thinking that. It's a major issue. We know, as we mentioned, that between a quarter and a third of U.S. households experience some form of energy insecurity, difficulty affording those bills. This is why it's so vital to explore ways to make your AC run more efficiently if you have one, like keeping filters clean, sealing leaks around windows and doors, or to find supplemental cooling methods so you don't have to rely solely on AC. And definitely look into local or state grants and low-interest loan programs in your area. Sometimes these programs can help cover energy efficiency projects like weatherization, adding insulation, or even upgrading to a more efficient AC unit. These upgrades can drastically reduce your utility bills in the long run. There are resources out there, and it's really worth exploring them. Don't assume help isn't available.
That's great advice. Check for local programs. Now, if AC isn't an option at home, or if you just need a break from your own place, remember that many communities offer public cooling centers. These are usually free, air-conditioned spaces like libraries, community centers, or dedicated facilities. They provide a much-needed respite from the heat. To find locations near you, a great resource is often dialing 211, or you can check in with your local Department of Aging, your area agency on aging, or your local senior community center. They're often the best source for up-to-date information on available programs and cooling center locations in your specific area.
Definitely use those resources. And don't underestimate the simple power of water for external cooling right at home. Taking cool showers or even just a cool foot bath can make a world of difference. It feels so good.
Yeah.
And it's surprisingly effective because tap water, especially if it comes from deep underground pipes, maybe 10 feet deep or so, stays naturally cool, usually around 40, 50 degrees in a lot of hours, even on the hottest days. It hasn't had time to heat up. So as long as you have water pressure, you have access to a quick and effective cooling method right at home. Use it.
That's a great point. Just turning on the tap can provide real relief. And you can also apply cool compresses like wet washcloths to areas with high blood flow. Think about your neck, your armpits, your groin area. Cooling these spots can help lower your overall body temperature more quickly. Now, I've heard some people discuss, especially in places with really high humidity, like maybe Houston where the water table is shallow, that stepping out of a cool shower, you almost can't dry off effectively, and you might feel hot and sticky again really quickly. How does that factor into the effectiveness of sweating and overall cooling? Is the shower still worth it?
That's a very valid point about extremely high humidity environments. It's true. In those specific conditions, while the immediate cool shower definitely helps lower your skin temperature, the air is so saturated with moisture that sweat and even the residual moisture from your shower just doesn't evaporate well. It can't easily turn into vapor. That's why air movement becomes even more critical in such scenarios. A fan, even if it's just moving warm, humid air, can help push that layer of saturated air away from your skin. And that movement can promote at least some evaporation, which is still the key mechanism for cooling. So yes, the shower is still beneficial for immediate cooling, but combining it with air movement, like a fan, is probably best in very humid conditions. It's about combining methods.
Okay, that makes sense. Combine the cool water with moving air if it's super humid. Speaking of optimizing your home environment, let's talk about windows. They let in a lot of heat. Installing exterior covers or reflective films on your windows can block a significant amount of the sun's heat before it even gets inside. Even something as simple and low cost as applying cardboard to the outside of your windows, especially sun-facing ones, can make a noticeable difference. Uncovered windows, especially large ones, can increase your home's internal temperature by maybe 2 to 3 degrees or even more. This is all about increasing the albedo, right? The reflectivity of surfaces to keep that solar heat out. It's why architects sometimes limit the amount of glass on south or west-facing sides of a building to improve its thermal performance naturally.
Exactly. Increase that albedo. And you can use this principle of reflectivity in other ways around the home or community too. Think about using light-colored reflective materials on roofs and even pavements. White or light-colored roofs reflect much more sunlight than dark ones. Materials like white paint or plaster are far better at reflecting heat away than dark wood or red brick, which tend to absorb it and radiate back out. Simple changes like painting a roof white can make a noticeable difference in how cool a building stays, which then impacts the surrounding air temperature too. There are even innovative methods for pavements, like inverted pavement, which involves spreading a thin layer of reflective aggregate over bitumen, or adding thin concrete layers over asphalt, since concrete generally has a higher reflectivity. These are relatively simple and inexpensive concepts that can be implemented on a larger scale to cool down neighborhoods.
Interesting. So reflective surfaces help a lot. What about inside the home? Airflow and insulation.
Vital. Absolutely vital. You can zone cool your house, meaning close doors to unused rooms while cool rooms you're not using. You can even hang blankets or heavy curtains in hallways or doorways to cut off airflow, effectively insulating the areas you are using and keeping the cool air concentrated there. And use window fans strategically. Don't just put one anywhere. Try having some pointed inside on one side of the house, maybe the cooler shaded side, and others pointed outside on the opposite side, the sunnier side, to push hot air out. This creates cross-ventilation, getting that air moving effectively through the spaces you're in. You can also hang blankets or tarps from porches or awnings to shade windows and doorways from the outside, creating cooler zones right at the entrance. And some people even suggest misting these blankets with water. The evaporation might provide some additional cooling effect as air passes through them.
Clever ideas. Taking control of the airflow.
Yeah.
Now, looking at the bigger picture, you mentioned green cooling solutions earlier. These can have a profound community-level impact, right? But can homeowners do anything similar? Yes, definitely. And homeowners can certainly incorporate some of these ideas, even on a smaller scale. For instance, green roofs covered with plants and soil, can significantly reduce heat gain in buildings. They act like insulation. Studies have shown that uninsulated green roofs can be considerably cooler, maybe around 12 degrees C or over 20 degrees A cooler than traditional roofs in the summer. They dramatically reduce the amount of heat that enters your home from the top down.
It's fascinating, a living roof keeping things cool. And then there's just general urban greening, like planting trees.
Hugely important. Planting trees and creating green spaces significantly cools down an area. It's not just aesthetic. Think about how much cooler it feels walking under a tree on a hot day that's real cooling at work through shade and evapotranspiration. A single row of trees can reduce the temperature of the ambient air by a noticeable degree Celsius, which is almost 2 degrees Fahrenheit. And creating a downtown park that replaces heat-absorbing buildings and pavement could drop the ambient air temperature by several degrees Celsius, maybe 2 degrees C to over 6 degrees C. That's a huge difference. A single mature tree that transpires or sweats hundreds of liters of water provides a cooling effect estimated to be similar to 5 average air conditioners running for 20 hours a day.
Wow, 5 air conditioners. That's incredible. Nature's AC.
It really is. And diversified green spaces, meaning not just expanses of mowed grass, but areas with shrubs, different plant layers. These can have average surface temperatures much lower than simple mowed areas. Shrubland, for example, can be up to 20 degrees C or 36 degrees C, cooler at the surface than exposed asphalt or even just grass.
That explains why parks feel so much better. And communities are actually doing this.
Yes. These are not just theoretical benefits. Communities are actively collaborating on greening projects. Our sources mentioned examples like the Arena Rodrigue-Gilbert parking lot in Montreal. They replaced asphalt with green space. Or the École Saint-Pierre schoolyard in Alma, Quebec. They incorporated trees, permeable pavers that let water through, urban agriculture, and even removed asphalt, all specifically to combat urban heat islands and improve comfort for residents and students. It truly shows what's possible when people come together to rethink their built environment.
That's really inspiring. And quickly, you also mentioned rain gardens and blue spaces.
Right. Rain gardens are basically shallow depressions planted with native plants. They're designed to temporarily hold and soak in rainwater runoff from roofs or pavements. They can be developed at relatively low cost. They help manage stormwater, prevent flooding, humidify the soil, and regenerate local water tables, all of which contributes to cooling. And blue spaces, simply areas with bodies of water like ponds, lakes, rivers, or even fountains, they not only enhance the aesthetic appeal and encourage leisure activities, but they also impact local microclimates through evaporation, contributing to cooling the surrounding air. All these elements, green spaces, reflective surfaces, water features, they work together synergistically to create a more comfortable and resilient environment in the face of heat. Hydration and nutrition for heat safety, fueling your body. Right. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Moving on to what you put into your body. Hydration and nutrition are truly your best friends in a heat wave. It's really about fueling your body right so it can combat the heat effectively from the inside out.
Absolutely. And the golden rule of hydration is simple, but so often overlooked. Drink constantly. Do not wait until you feel thirsty. Please don't wait. Thirst is actually already a sign that you're starting to get dehydrated. And as we discussed, for older adults, that thirst mechanism may not be as sensitive or reliable as it once was. The signal might be weak or delayed. Even when you're sweating, especially if it's humid and the sweat isn't evaporating quickly, you might not realize just how much fluid you're losing and how quickly you're getting dehydrated.
Right, so proactive drinking is key. What should we be drinking? And just as importantly, what should we avoid?
Water is always the best choice. Plain, simple water. What to avoid is just as important, as you said. Strongly steer clear of sugary drinks, sodas, sweet teas, many fruit juices. They can actually hinder hydration. And definitely avoid alcohol and caffeine. While a cold beer or an iced coffee might seem appealing in the heat, they can act as diuretics, meaning they make you lose more fluid, contributing to dehydration. They make the situation worse for your body's cooling system.
Okay, so water is king. What about food? Can food help with hydration?
Yes, absolutely. Power up with nutrient-rich foods, especially fruits and vegetables. Many fruits and veggies have very high water content. Think watermelon, cucumbers, celery, oranges, strawberries. Eating these contributes significantly to your overall hydration. Plus, they provide essential vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. These nutrients support your overall health, which is especially important when your body is under the stress of hot weather. Think about crisp lettuce in a salad, juicy watermelon slices, refreshing berries. They hydrate and nourish.
That makes sense. Eat your water. Are there specific nutrients that are particularly important for seniors to focus on, especially during stressful times like heat waves?
Yes, there are several key nutrients that often need extra attention for older adults. We're talking about vitamins A, B12, D, calcium, iron, and zinc. For example, calcium is crucial not just for strong bones and teeth, but also for muscle contractions, nerve activity, and even hormone and enzyme secretions and blood clotting. The general recommendation for adults over 50 is around 1,200 milligrams per day. Inadequate intake can unfortunately lead to bone loss over time. Good sources include, the obvious ones like milk, yogurt, cheese, but also fortified soy beverages and juices, canned salmon or sardines with the bones, white beans, navy beans, soybeans, and even cooked bok choy. Lots of options.
Okay, calcium for bones and more. What about iron and zinc?
Iron is essential for energy production and circulation, carrying oxygen in your blood. The recommendation is about 8 milligrams daily. Seniors with low dietary iron intake or postmenopausal women who might be on hormone replacement therapy are particularly at risk for iron deficiency, which can cause fatigue. Zinc, too, is vital. It's involved in so many processes: protein and DNA synthesis, immune system function, wound healing, growth, and it's even a structural component of insulin. About 8 to 11 milligrams daily are recommended. Zinc deficiency can be common among malnourished elderly individuals, particularly those with conditions like cirrhosis, diabetes mellitus, or those taking certain diuretics, which can deplete zinc. You can find zinc in foods like meat, fish, poultry, whole grains, nuts, and seeds.
It sounds like getting a variety of whole foods is really important. What if someone finds it challenging to meet these nutrient requirements through food alone? Maybe due to appetite changes in the heat or other issues.
That's a very common situation. If meeting these requirements through diet alone is difficult, it's always a good idea to discuss supplement use with your healthcare provider or a registered dietitian. They can help determine if you're truly deficient or at increased risk for a deficiency. And they can advise on appropriate, safe supplementation for your specific needs, taking into account any other medications you might be taking. Don't just start taking supplements without advice. Oh, and let's not forget fiber. It's maybe not directly related to heat, but crucial for overall health. For males over 50, the aim is about 30 grams a day, and for females over 50, about 21 grams a day. Fiber is crucial for good digestive health, which really supports your overall well-being, especially during the stress of hot weather when digestion can sometimes get sluggish. Think fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans, lentils.
Good reminder about fiber. Now, you mentioned incorporating some subtle science-backed wisdom earlier. How does that fit in with nutrition?
Right, so instead of focusing on traditional concepts that might not resonate, we can look at the researched benefits of certain gentle things. For example, gentle herbal teas. Ginger tea, for instance, is well known and studied for its digestive benefits. It can help soothe an upset stomach, which can sometimes happen in the heat if your appetite is off. Chamomile tea is well researched for promoting relaxation and sleep. And getting good sleep is incredibly important for recovery, but often difficult when temperatures stay high overnight. So suggesting these isn't about vague traditional ideas, but about their tangible researched benefits that support overall health and comfort during hot weather. A warm cup of chamomile before bed might help you rest better.
That makes sense. Focusing on the proven benefits.
Yeah.
One final but critically important point about overall health management, especially for seniors. Medication reviews.
Yes, critically important. Many seniors take multiple medications for various conditions. This is often called polypharmacy. Taking many medications inherently increases the risk of side effects and adverse drug events or interactions. During a heat wave, this is especially crucial because some medications can directly affect your body's ability to regulate heat. Some can affect sweating, some can affect your hydration levels by increasing urination, some might make you more sensitive to the sun. That's why regular medication reviews with your doctor or pharmacist are so important. They can assess if any adjustments are needed during hot weather. Also, if someone has dysphagia, which is difficulty swallowing, it's important to discuss this with their healthcare provider. Swallowing difficulties can make it hard to drink enough fluids or eat certain foods, increasing dehydration risk. But there are ways to manage it, like modifying food textures or using special thickened fluids to ensure they stay nourished and hydrated safely. It's all about making sure your body and your medication plan has the support it needs to handle the heat safely.
Outdoor activities and community care. Moving safely, connecting strongly.
Okay, so we've talked extensively about staying cool indoors and fueling your body correctly. Now, let's consider smart outdoor activities if you need to be outside, and just as importantly, how community care and connection play a huge role in staying safe and well during these challenging heat waves.
Absolutely. Connection is key. But first, if you do need to be outdoors, timing is everything. We mentioned it briefly before, but it bears repeating. It's really best to avoid outdoor time during the peak sun hours, typically between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. when the sun is strongest and temperatures are usually highest. If you absolutely must be outside during those times, keep it very short, try to stick to shady areas as much as possible, and wear protective clothing and a hat.
And this next point is one a geriatrician shared in our sources that really stuck with me. No project or chore is worth a fall, a stroke, or a heart attack. It's such a powerful reminder to limit or even postpone strenuous outdoor activity like heavy gardening, mowing the lawn, or big cleaning projects during extreme heat. It's just not worth the risk.
It really isn't. Your health comes first. If you enjoy exercising outdoors and want to maintain your routine, that's great. But definitely adjust your timing. Do it earlier in the morning before the heat builds up, or later in the evening after the sun starts to go down and temperatures cool off a bit. Listen to your body. If it feels too hot, it probably is. Maybe take the workout indoors that day.
And what about the type of exercise? You mentioned some gentle options earlier.
Yes. For exercise, especially for older adults, consider gentle, flowing options like Tai Chi or Qigong. These practices are excellent for improving flexibility, balance, which helps prevent falls and reducing stress. And they can often be done safely indoors in an air-conditioned space or in cool, shaded outdoor areas early in the morning. The CDC highlights so many benefits of physical activity for adults 65 or older. Immediate benefits like improved sleep quality and reduced feelings of anxiety. And long-term, regular activity lowers the risks of dementia, depression, heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, certain cancers, weight gain. And significantly helps people live independently longer. It's so important for quality of life. These gentle practices truly support holistic well-being, body and mind, and they're easily adaptable to hot weather conditions.
That's great advice. Adapt the exercise to the conditions. And when you do go outside, or even when you're just trying to stay cool indoors without AC, remember the clothing advice. Wear light, loose-fitting, light-colored clothing. Light colors reflect sunlight. Loose fits allow air to circulate around your body, promoting natural cooling through evaporation. Now, we talked about fans. They can certainly enhance comfort by accelerating air movement and promoting heat loss from the skin through convection and evaporation, make you feel cooler. However, there's a caveat here, right? When does a fan stop being helpful?
Yes, there is a caveat. Beyond a certain high temperature, the sources suggest around 95 degrees are fair, or 35 degrees C fans' effectiveness appears limited. In fact, in very hot, dry conditions, they might even increase your body's thermal load because they're essentially blowing superheated air directly onto your skin, which can speed up dehydration. It's like a convection oven effect. So fans are most helpful at moderate temperatures or when combined with other cooling methods, like using them to circulate cool air from AC or combining them with passive cooling measures like drawing your blinds or using sunshades to block incoming heat. They work best as part of a system.
Okay, so fans are helpful, but maybe not a magic bullet in extreme heat. Use them wisely. You also touched on urban design earlier, how facilitating walking or cycling helps.
Yes, it's an interesting point. Cities that design infrastructure like shaded sidewalks, protected bike lanes to make cycling or walking safer and more pleasant, can actually reduce that anthropogenic heat from cars and buses. Not only that, but such infrastructure hugely benefits public health by encouraging physical activity. Some studies even suggest that the savings in healthcare costs related to increased physical activity can almost triple the initial investment needed for building that infrastructure. Of course, it's crucial that these developments are designed to be safe and accessible for everyone: children, the elderly, people with mobility impairments, low-income earners. And ideally, they should include elements like trees for shade to ensure comfort and safety, especially during warmer months.
That makes perfect sense. Designing for people, not just cars. Now let's talk about the power of community and connection. This cannot be overstated during a heat wave, can it?
Absolutely not. It is so, so important. Please, everyone listening, check in regularly with your neighbors, older relatives, and friends, especially those who live alone or who you know have health conditions or limited mobility. A simple phone call, just to ask how they're doing, if they need anything, or an in-person check-in, if it's safe for you to do so, maybe bringing over some cool water or offering to run an errand. It can make a significant difference. It's a simple act of kindness that has a profound impact, and it can literally save lives.
It really can, and that isolation factor is huge.
It's huge. I remember reading a quote from one of the sources about a man in a very sad situation involving meal delivery programs. When someone finally checked on him with a meal, he simply said, "Oh, I'm so happy. I've been waiting to eat." It highlights so powerfully how profound the impact of isolation can be, especially during challenging times like heat waves, when people might be shut in. Social isolation can significantly impact both mental and physical health. It increases feelings of loneliness and depression, which can be made even worse when you're stuck indoors. Maybe feeling unwell from the heat and cut off from your usual routines or social interactions.
This is exactly why programs that actively combat social isolation, even when staying indoors is necessary, are so vital. We need connection. Think about initiatives mentioned in our sources, like No Senior Eats Alone Day and the Living Connected programs. These aim to elevate awareness of social isolation's impact and offer real opportunities for connection through shared meals and activities at senior centers or other community hubs. And programs like My Meal, My Way, which partners with local restaurants to provide affordable, nutritious meals for seniors, often in a social setting.
These programs have seen remarkable growth and have inspired similar initiatives in other counties. They are truly connecting hundreds, maybe thousands, of older adults to crucial social engagement and nutrition. And then there's Pearls Connect. This program provides ongoing social engagement opportunities for older adults. It helps them connect with peers, maintain behavioral health improvements they might have made, like managing depression, practice new skills, and build support networks. The data is impressive. Our sources show that over 80% of clients who attended 2 or more Pearls Connect events maintained improved depression scores for at least 3 months after finishing the initial program. Connection works. Another fantastic example is technology and connections at home. This provides technology like iPads, internet access, and personalized training or health coaching. One participant shared this powerful quote: "During this quarantine, it really saved my life to have this iPad to keep me company. The isolation was unbearable, but knowing I could FaceTime and now Zoom, I visited with my grandchild and talked to my niece in different cities. I exercised with the help of YouTube, participate in a Zoom art group. I actually take my meds on time."
Wow. That's incredibly powerful testimony to the impact of connection, especially using technology when physical presence isn't possible. And similar programs, like Weaving Hearts, adapted during the COVID-19 pandemic to provide virtual activities via Zoom. They distributed tablets and hotspots, provided computer training, and even engaged family members in daily online activities like music, dancing, and cooking classes. These programs truly serve as a lifeline, fostering a sense of community and reinforcing family ties, even across distances. Even things like repair cafes, often organized by older adults themselves, bring people of all ages together. They meet, share skills, maybe have a snack, and repair broken household items together. It fosters connection, shared purpose, saves money, and keeps beloved items out of landfills. And the Weber Morgan Senior Art Gallery, an online gallery showcasing artwork by older adult artists from senior center classes, it connects them to the community, motivates them, and encourages others to join in. These are also beautiful examples of how connection sustains us in different ways.
They really are. All these initiatives represent proactive steps to maintain well-being and that crucial sense of belonging, which is absolutely vital during times when staying home might be necessary for safety, like during a heat wave, but can also lead to isolation if we're not careful. And speaking of home, it's worth noting, as our sources point out, that a vast majority of people, something like 97%, prefer not to go into care homes if they can avoid it. They want to age in place. Private care at home, when feasible and affordable, can often be a cheaper, more personalized alternative that's also generally better for overall health and well-being compared to institutional settings. Care homes, while necessary for some, can have strict rules, sometimes even things like not allowing long married couples to remain living in the same room, which can be heartbreaking.
That really reinforces the importance then of making your home a safe, cool, and comfortable haven during heat waves, and exploring all the options and supports available that might allow you or your loved ones to stay there safely and independently for as long as possible. Outro.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's just quickly recap those crucial strategies for staying safe during a heat wave. Remember these 3 key things.
First, stay cool. Prioritize indoor cooling however you can. Use AC if possible. Seek out public cooling centers if needed. Use the power of water for personal relief. Cool showers, baths, compresses, and optimize your home environment with smart window management, shading, and strategic airflow.
Second, drink enough water. Make hydration a priority. Drink constantly throughout the day. Don't wait to feel thirsty. Avoid those sugary drinks, alcohol, and caffeine. And fuel your body with hydrating fruits and vegetables as part of a nutritious diet.
And finally, perhaps most importantly, check on others. Maintain those vital social connections. Check in with your neighbors, family, and friends, especially those who might be more vulnerable or living alone. That connection is protective.
By taking these simple proactive steps, you really can navigate the heat safely and comfortably. Preparation, knowing what to do, and vigilance, paying attention to yourself and others are absolutely key to your well-being.
And please remember to stay informed by checking weather forecasts and heat advisories from reputable sources like the National Weather Service, Environment Canada, or your local public health department. And always, always talk to your doctor or healthcare provider about any specific health concerns you have related to heat or your medications.
We'd love to hear from you now. What are your best tips for staying cool and hydrated? Or how do you stay connected with loved ones during hot weather? Leave a comment below. We really do read them. Which tip resonated most with you today? Or what's your #1 strategy for beating the heat? If this deep dive was helpful for you, you can simply comment KZ. Let us know. If a tip from me, Zen, particularly resonated, feel free to comment Z. Or for a tip from Kai you found useful, comment K. We appreciate the feedback.
The heat waves we're experiencing are a stark reminder of how profoundly our environment can impact our well-being. It's undeniable. But they also highlight something else, the incredible resilience of communities when we come together to care for one another, and the powerful role that simple choices, proactive preparation, and strong social connections play in our health and happiness, no matter what the weather brings. Stay safe out there.